My father leaned across the glossy mahogany table, swirling his wine glass toward my brother's fiancée. "Don't take Rebecca too seriously," he said, his voice coated in polished insincerity. "She's our little project. Still figuring things out." Amelia just looked at me, her brow tightening, as if she could see straight through the performance. "My name is Rebecca Hayes. I'm 28. And for as long as I've existed, I've been the quiet shadow in a family that thrived on noise. My parents built a booming real estate business from scratch. My older brother, Mark, was their golden child, following their path exactly. Their universe gleamed, loud, glittering, expensive. Success meant sprawling square footage, fat commission checks, and luxury on display. They adored their German cars, charity galas where their faces grinned for the local paper, and stories of million-dollar deals. Their laughs were always too loud, their handshakes uncomfortably firm. And then there was me. I didn't want to sell houses. I wanted to create worlds. So, I launched a tiny tech startup from the corner of my cramped one-bedroom apartment. My days buzzed with the hum of a laptop fan, sustained by cheap coffee and instant noodles. To my family, that wasn't ambition. It was proof of failure. My thrift store wardrobe, my rented space, none of it looked like sacrifice for a dream to them. To them, it was evidence that I couldn't cut it. They loved me maybe in their way, but beneath it all, they were deeply ashamed of me. What they didn't realize was that my small, quiet life was about to erupt into something impossible to ignore. Has your family ever treated you like this? Like you were a puzzle to fix instead of a person to love? Share it in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. The reason we were sitting there in the first place was for Mark's engagement dinner. He was marrying Amelia, someone my parents practically worshipped. A partner at a powerful venture capital firm in San Francisco. The kind of triumph they could brag about at the country club for decades. To impress her, they rented out the most exclusive private dining room in a downtown steakhouse. Dark wood walls, heavy white tablecloths, waiters gliding silently like ghosts. The air itself smelled of money and charred steak. The whole evening felt staged, and I was the unwilling prop. My dad rolled out his greatest hits, overblown stories of Mark's big deals. My mom showered Amelia with praise for her investments, fumbling through a subject she clearly knew nothing about. And me? I just dragged an asparagus spear around my plate, heavy with the usual invisibility. Eventually, the attention landed on me, and the atmosphere shifted. Rebecca's still tinkering with her little computer thing. My mom told Amelia, patting my hand like I was some fragile patient. Her touch burned worse than any insult. Mark smirked. "Yeah, we keep telling her to get a real job. Maybe I can hook you up with an internship at the office, BK. Answering phones or something. Good experience for you." Amelia turned toward me, her gaze sharp, curious. "Oh, what kind of project is it?" Before I could answer, my dad waved his hand dismissively. "Sweetheart, it's complicated. She's building some app or other, like a million of them out there." He sighed, as though carrying the burden of my dream himself. For the next 10 minutes, they spoke about me as though I didn't exist. They painted me as a lost little girl refusing to grow up. My face burned, but I stayed silent, drowning in the sound of silverware clinking against plates. The final blow came when the check arrived in its sleek leather case. My father pulled out his platinum card with a theatrical flourish. Looking straight at me, he smiled with pity. "Don't worry, Rebecca. I've got this. You just focus on whatever it is you do." The meaning couldn't have been clearer. You are charity. You are not one of us. You don't even belong at this table. I swallowed the silence like a stone. It wasn't the first time. Just the latest entry in a long, bitter history. Only a month before, they'd thrown a massive networking party at their house. Investors, business partners, even distant relatives in finance. The event was meant to drum up funds for their newest project. I hadn't even been invited. I discovered it only when I stumbled across photos on my aunt's social media. My entire family was gathered around, smiling, raising their champagne glasses. Everyone was there, except me. When I called my mom the following day, her tone was light, almost careless. "Oh, honey, we didn't want to trouble you." It was mostly a high-level business discussion. Nothing but figures and projections. We thought you'd be bored or feel out of place. Out of place. That's exactly how she said it. Not an accident, a message. A reminder. You don't belong in the world of achievement. You're not one of us. The sting lodged itself deep in my chest. That was the moment I realized they didn't just fail to understand my dream. They looked down on it. To them, my path was so insignificant that inviting me would have been a liability. They weren't protecting my feelings. They were protecting their image. And I couldn't help but wonder, if they kept pushing me away, what would even be left to come back to? The private slights hurt, but the public ones cut deeper. We were at a 4th of July cookout at a family friend's home. The sun was blazing, the air heavy with charcoal smoke and the sharp scent of fresh-cut grass. For once, I was enjoying myself, catching up with a neighbor I hadn't spoken to in years. Then came my dad's voice, booming across the yard. He was standing near the grill, beer in hand, surrounded by his buddies. He spotted me and called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. My son, Mark, is getting ready to take over the family business. Big moves ahead. And my daughter, Rebecca? Well, she's chasing her passion. He followed it with a booming laugh, the kind that demanded others join in. And they did, offering polite, uneasy chuckles. The way he lingered on passion turned it into something ugly, a punchline, shorthand for unemployed, failure, wasted potential. I felt the heat crawl up my face as eyes turned toward me. The neighbor I was speaking with forced a pitying smile, and quickly steered the conversation elsewhere. I spent the rest of the day hiding in a corner, counting the minutes until I could slip away. Driving home, his laughter still echoed in my ears. The sound of my own father branding me a joke. The last push came right before the engagement dinner. My brother Mark called me. His voice oozed with fake concern, so sweet it made my stomach turn. Hey Beck, he began. So, with the dinner coming up, I know money might be kind of tight for you right now. I stayed silent, waiting for the sting I knew was coming, neatly wrapped in mock generosity. I was thinking I could lend you a few $100s. That way you can pick up a nice new dress. You'll want to look presentable. Amelia's family will be there, and first impressions count. Alone. He wanted to loan me money so I wouldn't embarrass him. This wasn't kindness, it was control. His way of putting me back in my place as the struggling little sister, who couldn't even dress herself without his help. The anger came hot, sharp, immediate. He didn't see me as his sister. He saw me as a liability to his image. Thanks, Mark, I replied, voice steady but edged with danger. But I already have something to wear. I'll be fine. You sure? He pressed. It's no big deal. I just want everything to be perfect. I'm sure. I cut him off, hanging up before I said something I couldn't take back. He didn't want perfection. He wanted me to be perfect, a reflection of his own success. Something I could never be. What none of them saw, what they never bothered to ask, was my reality. To them, my choices looked like failure. In truth, I was in the middle of the most focused, consuming work of my life. While they played golf at the country club, I was on Zoom at 6 a.m. with my lead developers in Berlin. While they bragged about sealing another local property deal, I was finalizing negotiations for a 7-figure seed round with international investors who recognized the global reach of my company, Tech. But to my family, the word app meant nothing more than kids wasting time on their phones. They never asked what it really was. They didn't know I was building a powerful logistics platform that could transform the shipping industry. They never asked why I turned down their patronizing offers of financial help, or why I kept my work quiet. The truth was, I couldn't tell them. Bound by a strict NDA, I had to wait until the funding closed and our public launch was ready. So I let them think what they wanted. That night, after Mark offered me money for a dress, I sat at my laptop finishing a 3-hour call with my new lead investor, confirming the details of the wire transfer. The sum that was about to land in my company's account was larger than my father's yearly profit. The irony was suffocating. To them, I was just a woman hunched over a glowing screen in a cramped apartment, proof of poverty. They couldn't see the digital empire I was quietly building, line by line, in silence. They mistook my quietness for shame, but it wasn't. It was strategy. And deep down, I knew that silence was about to end. At the dinner table, the atmosphere was heavy, the kind of tension you could slice through with a knife. All evening, Amelia was the only one who seemed genuinely interested in me. While my family spoke over me, or worse, about me, she kept pulling the spotlight back in my direction. Her questions weren't small talk. They were sharp, focused, and businesslike. "What market exactly are you aiming for with your platform?" she asked, eyes steady. "And what's your user acquisition strategy for the first 2 quarters?" My parents and Mark shifted uneasily, completely out of their depth. These weren't conversations about curb appeal or closing costs. They didn't know how to handle terms like user acquisition. Her intelligence rattled them. They thought she was just being polite to the struggling sister, not realizing she was genuinely intrigued. That only made them cling harder to their own narrative, trying to bond with her through their familiar world of real estate deals. In the process, I was pushed further to the margins. Then came the moment that stung the most. Mark puffed up his chest and said, "Amelia works with real founders, Rebecca. Visionaries. People actually changing the world. That's a completely different level compared to, a side project." There was no cruelty in his voice, just belief. And that made it worse. He truly thought he was connecting with her, completely blind to the irritation flickering in her eyes. But the breaking point came when my mother spoke of my future, as if it were some depreciating property she was desperate to offload. "We just hope one day she'll find a nice, stable young man to take care of her," she said to Amelia, squeezing my shoulder in a grip that felt more like a warning. That was when Amelia's polite smile disappeared. Her expression hardened into something analytical, almost clinical. Her gaze shifted between my mother's anxious face and my calm one. I could see her piecing things together, her mind connecting dots no one else noticed. A spark of recognition lit up her face. She leaned forward slightly, her voice low but serious. "What did you say the name of your company was?" My chest tightened, my heart pounding. This was it. I looked her straight in the eye, and for the first time all night, I felt strong. My voice was steady. "It's called Oritech." Her eyes widened. The sound of her fork clicking against the plate rang out like a gunshot in the silence. Her entire presence shifted. She was no longer the polite fiancée meeting the family. She was a venture capitalist who had just spotted something extraordinary. "Oritech," she repeated slowly, the word cutting through the air heavy with real estate jargon. Her voice rose, firm and clear. "Wait, you're Rebecca Hayes? L. Hayes? You're the founder." The world seemed to freeze. My father's charming grin cracked. My mother's face twisted in confusion. Mark's jaw fell open. I didn't rush to explain. I just gave a slow, deliberate nod. Amelia turned sharply toward my brother, her expression unreadable now. Cold, professional. "You said you wanted me to meet visionaries. My firm has been trying to schedule a meeting with V. Hayes for 6 months. She's infamous for keeping her identity hidden. We even had a standing 7-figure offer on the table to lead her Series A, but her legal team never let us through." Before anyone could speak, she pulled out her phone, fingers flying. She turned the screen toward the table. An article headline loomed in bold print. "The Invisible Founder. How V. L. Hayes built a $20 million company in stealth mode." Below was my company's logo. The article quoted top investors praising the founder's brilliance, vision, and groundbreaking work in logistics. My father's face drained of color. My mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. Years of dismissive comments. A little project, a charity case, just finding her passion, figuring herself out. All hung in the air like poison, absurd and shameful. Mark's eyes darted between me and the phone, his expression a mess of jealousy, shock, and disbelief. For the first time in my life, my family had nothing to say. And their silence was sweeter than any victory speech I could have given. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to gloat. Their faces said it all. I calmly placed my linen napkin on the table, untouched plate before me. Rising slowly, my chair scraped softly against the wood. I met Amelia's eyes and offered her a genuine smile. "It was truly a pleasure to finally meet you," I said. Then I turned to my family, still frozen in place. "I have an early call with my European team tomorrow morning. Enjoy the rest of your dinner." I walked out of that private room without rushing, without glancing back. Past the other diners' curious stares, into the cool night air. This silence was different. Not pity. not dismissal. It was the sound of their world shattering. And in that moment I realized I had never needed their approval. I only ever needed my own belief. They hadn't lost me that night. They had been losing me for years, with every belittling comment and every pitying look. What they truly lost tonight was the right to share in my journey. If you've ever had to prove your worth to those who doubted you, hit subscribe and share your story. This community understands, and your voice matters here. Thank you for listening.